Good day, folks.
Recording in progress.
In stereo. Let's see here. Samir, do we have an agenda? I'm just pulling it up, actually. October 27th. Great.
Yes, Steve, I didn't put one that I wanted to present today. Didn't have anything meaty to cover.
Okay. And who did the permission merging one for tough?
Don't know that.
See, somewhere in here, there's a way to see that. Oh, Marina. Okay, so give Marina. Oh, there she is.
Yeah, hello.
Good morning. Good day. Okay. All right. All right. Let's give folks a minute. Folks want to sign in. Marina, I think you missed last week or something. Do you want to be our chair today?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I can do that. Let me get set up for that.
Folks can just sign in. I don't know. Hand it to Marina.
All right. Okay, I think Brandon has the first thing. I guess we can give it a couple minutes though. I also don't see him here, so yeah.
And I'm sorry, Samir, did you say you do have a topic?
No, I don't have a topic.
Okay. I mean, the first probably thing, just while we're waiting for people to fill in, like we've got a release out. It's just awesome. So, you know, a little golf clap for ourselves. You know, it's one thing to have things in experimental branches and the people were, you know, giving feedback that unless it's in Maine, it's very hard to get visibility. So not only do we have the bits in Maine, we've got the the 4 repos going, but the 3 related to Alpha 1 with the signature spec, the notation library, and the notation golib gives us the basis of what we need, and you can actually have builds and pull the binary and run it. So that's a huge milestone for everybody. So thank you to everybody involved in getting that done. Yes, the fire. I actually never know what that is. Is that fireworks coming out of an ice cream cone or
celebration cone?
okay?
Are we waiting for Brandon? Is that where?
We were just typically
yeah.
doing the 5-minute thing. But
Yeah,
Oh,
he
right.
had the first item on the agenda, so if you're gonna give him at least a couple minutes to get here.
Cool.
But yeah,
Why don't
it's
we-
5 past, so we can go ahead and maybe switch the order. But my thing is actually pretty short, which is the second thing on the agenda. Basically, it's just that I guess, well, Justin Cormack isn't here, but I don't know who has permissions in the Tough Notary repo. But it'd be nice to extend the list. Basically, that's my request.
you
It
have
would be nice-
permissions, right?
I don't. That's kind of the problem.
Oh, well, that's the
Yeah.
first obvious one. Okay, that's an easy fix. You should absolutely have you know, permissions on that repo. If why you don't, I don't. It's just
It's probably just a mistake. It's fine. I just wanted to bring that up and get that resolved.
No.
So cool.
that's an easy one. I think we're getting a backlog of a couple of configuration issues that I just don't necessarily know all the details to. So
Okay, cool. Yeah, because
we'll get that
then
fixed today.
Cool. And then with that, I think I can get started on the project board and other things. So
Yeah, no, apologies. I thought we had that all set up because I remember us setting up the sub-project maintainers when we first established all of this. So
it might be like a GitHub issue too, where like it got confused with the.
oh, was it?
I don't know, but anyway, that's just the situation. I don't know how it happened, but that's whatever. It doesn't matter. So that was my only thing on that comment. I guess we can go over this issue from Brandon even without him here. At least take a look at reading it. Let's see. I think this was the one about the support for basically non-ORAS registries, kind of for backwards compatibility purposes, and a couple of options of either using known tags or the index, with the index basically meaning that you can have more than one signature or thing attached to the artifact as like a backwards compatibility mechanism. I think there were a couple comments here. I don't know if anyone else has thoughts they want to bring up.
Did anybody ping Brandon just to see if he's coming? Because I know he spent a lot of time thinking about this, and I wanted to let me see if I could find him on Slack. Just to give him a chance to jump in.
So I can say I'm really interested in this, both like I just want this to exist because I think it will take a very, very long time for well, it would take forever for every registry to support these new APIs because there's always some internal registry somewhere that was updated once in 2017 and will never update again. But also just like to be able to get practical value out of Notary for things while registries are rolling this out. I don't particularly care how it's implemented, just like whether it's this one or this one or this one, just so long as something, just so long as there is some implementation, some way to do this for any registry without requiring changes. The cosign project has its own way of describing this. Like they just selected one way to tag things with known tags, and I can't speak for them. Obviously, I don't make decisions for them, but I think that there is an argument to be made for whatever one comes up with. If the other can also do the same thing, that would benefit the community. If there wasn't two ways of describing, of pointing to a signature in a registry that doesn't support new APIs, that would greatly benefit tool authors that want to attach signatures and SBOMs and anything, and also consumers of those things, which is the users, which is the reason we're all here. So yeah, I don't have a strong horse in the race, so long as it's something that cosign and others could also adopt. I don't know if there have been like cross-pollinations between this community and the SIG store community to try to bridge that gap. I know it's a lot of the same folks here and over there and around. So yeah, that's that. My summary is I would love for there to be one way to do this, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think that might be a nice thing to do. I think one thing I'm curious about, and I just don't know, I've been meaning to look at this actually, is how cosign handles multiple signatures on attached to an artifact. Because I think that was one of the big challenges here. And I don't know if they've solved it or not, but I've been meaning to look into that to see if that's something that we could move over here.
Yeah, I have demoed this. I can show it just. I can share a gist of demoing this. You can absolutely attach multiple signatures to an image using cosign. How it does it is not using an index, but using an image where each layer is a blob, where each layer is a blob containing the signing data, and the tag is basically the tag is SHA-256-hexstuff.sig is the chosen suffix they have for cosign signatures. there was some discussion on the Slack, and I think even in this issue, about how races are handled, which I think boils down to the registry should handle this anyway by virtue of using e-tags, which I think is a good recommendation anyway. But yeah, basically they don't do the index solution that was discussed in the issue. They just have an image where each layer, each item in the layers array, it's not a layer because they're not like container images really, but each item in the layers array points to a blob holding the signature information. I'll share I can share the gist in the chat as well.
Yeah, that'd be great. And that may probably maybe either you or somebody can add a comment here, just as this is another option for this. And I think Steve has a comment too. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow the raise hand thing. So I think obviously we started Notary as a multi-vendor cross-crowd project because we want this to be everywhere. So, that's like, we'll just make sure we'll remind everybody that has always been our goal. We went down the path of having to do references and other enhancements to registries because registries don't natively know how to do that. So, and I don't think anybody that's fundamentally disagrees with that concept. It's really a matter of, how does adoption happen? But if we take those two things or the three things in balance there, what we're trying to figure out is if we could do these scenarios without many changes to a registry, then we wouldn't go through all this pain of designing and working and on enhancements to registries. So there's clearly a trade-off. That's part of what we've been trying to figure out is what exactly is the trade-off? And if we look at back in when we started Notary, it was just signing. That's really all we were trying to solve. How do we sign container images? It was through the designs that we realized that, and the vision of the registries can store other things as well, as we should be able to sign anything in a registry. So what we're trying to figure out, if we look back into one of the Notary V1 challenges, is it required, not only did it require enhancements to a registry, it required sidecars and other capabilities that all of it was by no means good. It didn't meet the end result. So when you look at all those fundamentals as to how we went around designing Notary V2 was how do we do things in a registry that is more generic, more applicable, so it's not just signatures, and how do we sign, all those things. So now that we've got more realization, we can look back with a lot of clarity of, now we know where we're at. It's much easier to say, okay, now that we know where we are, we know we can fall back because what 1.0 is a known thing. Now we know what we're targeting. We know both ends of the spectrum. So the thing that we've been trying to figure out is, all right, what is the fallback? What is the trade-off? What is the result of that? We actually, through all the discussions and through the stuff that Sajid shared, we actually feel pretty reasonable. I wouldn't say complete because we haven't finished writing it all down, that we can do a fallback to what we call the first leaf of that. And I don't know if the first leaf is the best reference, but basically if I have something in a registry, such as a container image, and I add a signature to it, that reference is well known. So we can do that. And yes, there's things around the way you can query tags. The multiple signatures is a problem. I'll come back to that, but I want to cover the other part first. So that first tier is a solvable problem to do a fallback. The thing that doesn't work well, we haven't figured out how to do it yet, is now that we've realized it's not just around signing a container image, but a container image could have an SBOM, which could have a signature. That second level plus starts to fall off because the whole thing that we're signing is a digest of the artifact itself. When I say the artifact, it's the manifest, because it's the blobs, it's the annotations, which all surface as a manifest. So we have a pretty good idea of how to do the single. The multiple, we haven't figured out how to do that yet. I'm not sure if we need to. That's part of the discussion that we need to have of whether maybe that is the bar that we say, look, for 1.0 registries, you get one level of reference. And if you want more, then That's the reason for the new features. So that's part one. It hasn't been the highest priority, honestly, for us, because we're trying to get the end goal done. And then once again, now that we feel good about the end goal, now I think we can start, as we have time, to start putting towards how does the fallback work. So that's part one. Part two is the race conditions that we talk about. And this is why I want to keep on coming back to, it's writing down what the requirements are that we're trying to solve. Because whether you're putting multiple blobs in a single manifest or you create multiple manifests and create an index, anytime you have to update one object in a registry, there's problems. And yes, e-tags can solve it for the same registry endpoint. But if you look at Harbor and ACR and even ECR, I don't know where GCR is at this point, we support replicated registries. So if you have two endpoints in two separate regions, they have an eventual consistency where they merge. So it's not as simple as doing e-tags, because e-tags resolves one endpoint. If somebody else is doing a build in a different region, or they're doing a build and I might get bounced between two regions, that eventual consistency fails. We have this problem in ACR that most places, the only time it happens is on the tag things, the things that are mutable, not immutable, immutable. So I think what it really need to do is, before I presented this at the OCI Summit, before we talk about great designs, because there's multiple great designs, what are the requirements we're trying to meet? What are the trade-offs? And then we say, okay, we can do a fallback that checks the checks for these requirements. And the others, we say, look, this is why we built the new thing. So that's just some background as to where we've been thinking about in this at this point. And Jason, I'll defer to you there.
Thanks. Yeah, I wanted to clear up a couple of things. I think I completely agree that modifying the OCI specs is hard and should be avoided if at all possible. I mean, I think we are all in agreement on that. I think the interesting thing that Cosign did was say, okay, let's just assume there is no way to change the APIs for now, right? Like, let's just say they're set in stone. They're not, but let's just say they are, because practically speaking, some registry somewhere will never update. And I think they solved the solution, or they found a solution that works okay. I mean, I don't think anybody would say it's perfect, because it pollutes the tag space and everything, but it works, across a dozen existing registries in the wild today: ECR, ACR, Docker Hub, Quay, all of them, whatever. So I think it's just a matter of differing solutions to the problem of the OCI specs being hard to modify. I still think we should modify the OCI specs if we can. You mentioned also SBOMs and other types of things, and that if Notary's fallback path might be to only support signatures on top level things, right? And not support SBOMs attached to those things, or signatures attached to SBOMs attached to things. I think that's if you want to make that decision, that is entirely your decision to make. That is fine. I wanted to point out that Cosign does support attaching SBOMs to things and scan results and signing those things without modifying the registry APIs. They do that roughly by just having a convention for what the suffix means. .sig means it's a signature. .sbom means it's an SBOM. .scan would be some scan result. You just need to come up with some convention for this and sort of publish that convention. It's not perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm saying it exists and works well with registries in the wild today. I think the race condition argument is obviously also complex. Distributed systems are hard. And I think my only point there would be that race conditions exist whether we're talking about signatures, whether we're talking about attaching things to things. Race conditions exist today with moving tags, with modifying an image or an index in a registry today. And so if a registry can't support me adding another platform to an index without race conditions, then that is, I would argue, as a user of that registry, that is a bug in that registry. If I can't say, this index includes these 3 platforms and I'd like to add a 4th, if I can't make that modification without risking race conditions, then I would consider that a bug in the registry and not, not just like a thing I need to work around. And so I think the solution to race conditions is unrelated to signatures and unrelated to attachments. Those bugs exist in the wild today and should be considered bugs in the registry implementation, not in attaching things. I'm curious if anyone, Steve, I don't know if you still have your hand up or if it's a
no,
back.
I put it back up because I don't want to pull away from anybody else. I think I guess I'll just go by whoever else has their hand up. I think the fundamental difference is whether the specs are considered frozen or whatever. Like, we fundamentally don't agree with that. Like, I don't, there's nothing else in cloud native under CNCF or whatever in the open source community that gets put out there and it's considered frozen. Obviously we run a registry, a fairly large registry, so we understand the complexities of making changes, don't get me wrong. And people that ship products that then are installed by customers, you can't touch, right? They have to choose to bring an update in. And we have the same problem with our on-prem connected registry that we're shipping. So we understand all the complexities. The fundamental piece that I fail to kind of accept is that things shouldn't change. We have all of the things that we've been talking about are all, and I'll just use the word hacky because that's the words that the other folks are using as well, that they don't like them, they consider them hacks, and then people are like, well, it's a glorious hack or whatever. We don't believe that we should just stop at a hack. We want to figure out how to solve this. And I think the point is, if a registry doesn't evolve, it's like dinosaurs, evolve or die. If a customer really wants, and I'm saying a customer, they're a paying customer, it's not just users, wants this capability, they're going to prioritize that to their vendor that they're purchasing things from. And if they don't evolve, they will switch to another product. And this is why we've been trying to do this as a commoditized thing, because I don't want this to be a leverage point between any of us. None of these registries are the things that any of us make money on. We all lose money on it. So how do we commoditize things so things can move? So I obviously I know all about the challenges with trying to make OCI spec changes. If we can't get immersion into OCI, that's not the end of the day. Like, right now, the project is under ORAS. We are going to ship that. We hope we can solve things with OCI, but the ORAS stuff is there, and we're implementing it. Others are implementing it, and that can be the end game. There's nothing that says that can't be the end game. That's not what I would desire, but I think we'll go there. As for the e-tags and the bugs, like, if a registry can fix a bug, but I don't understand why, then they're changing code. Why can't they change the code to a thing that we know is a better experience? So I think that's the difference between those. So if we can provide, here is how you make the experience better, and here's the benefits for it, and the benefits are worth it, then registries will adopt it. Or if customers see another registry that they could run in their own environment, right? Like, this is why we'd like to get things like Harbor and others to be able to adopt these, is there is a better solution. And it isn't unique to signing. The proposal that not proposal, but the implementation that you're referencing, where signature is a single blob and you're updating a single manifest, if the artifact has multiple layers, multiple blobs, that pattern doesn't work. So I believe the better answer, which is probably the direction we would go, is each new artifact that you're trying to push as a reference would go in as its own manifest. And that's why we would use the index, because now I have independent manifests that can be promoted across registries. The proposal that you're referring to with cosign, if you're putting the same multiple signatures in the same manifest, then you don't want certain signatures to promote across registries, it's broken. You don't have a way to separate those. And that's similar to what we're trying to solve with the tough metadata as well. So, and then the last one is just on the e-tag thing. It's not actually as simple as just solving the e-tag and a bug. It is the multi-registry thing. And if we do the multi-manifest solution, then each one of those are immutable. So you can push signatures from multiple regions, and they would show up in the registries on convergence, it is possible the index could get out of sync. And so that's something we'd have to figure out if there's a reconciliation on that, if we think that's even that important. So maybe
Yeah,
what
I'd love to hear what Marina has to say. I actually have to run in 4 minutes, but I'd love to hear what Marina has to say.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring this back because I think that we're all mostly in agreement that the ideal solution is to use references and go forward with that path. But I think that we need an intermediate path for registries that, you know, can't switch today or waiting for the OCI to make its call or whatever the case may be. And so I think that I just wanted to like refocus on that and which of these solutions can we use in the meantime, so that we can get broader support for, you know, for this project among registries who maybe can't switch to this today. And so yeah, I just wanted to refocus on that and just look again at these different options. And again, with keeping in mind that they're intermediate solutions, I think that the idea of compatibility across projects is probably would have some value. I don't know if that's like, I don't know where that falls on the priorities, but I definitely think that that might be a nice thing to have, right? So that you can combine these tools and use the, you know, you use whatever it is that's going to all work together. Yeah, that was just my comment and kind of trying to refocus on which of these solutions can we use today. And, you know, what are the pros and cons of the index versus the tags versus the whatever, so.
I think it's been a priority question for us is when do we prioritize the fallback? Up until recently, we didn't know what the end goal was going to be. So you can't, in my opinion, you can't define a fallback unless you know what you're falling back from. We are at a point where we can design a fallback. It's just a matter of where do we spend our cycles. It's something we've been debating ourselves, honestly. Like I do believe we should have a fallback. I think the question is writing down what it is that we're trying to solve and then what the trade-offs are. And I'm happy to start authoring, you know, writing it down somewhere so we could say, all right, if these are the goals, then what are the possible solutions that can meet those goals? And I don't expect them all to be checked. Sajay?
I think it's fair to say that to support a scenario, there might be multiple ways, and using a fallback is definitely one option. I would like to know who would actually spend the effort to write this fallback, actually implement it. That's one of the motivations also, because from my side, there are a few people working on this, and we have only finite resources to put on a project like this. What is the effort that we can bring into Notary that if at all we wanted fallback, somebody actually proposes the spec and takes it forward?
I think again, sorry, there are hands up and I don't mean to preempt. I just want to answer the question. I think what I was saying before is I think there is an opportunity to borrow and work with folks in the SIG store cosign community who are already effectively building a fallback. Like they're only doing the fallback basically for now. And I think that one approach, which is zero work for spec definition at least, is to say, as a fallback, we will use whatever cosign does, which already exists. And you can just have that, right? You don't have to spend any cycles designing it. It's designed, it's imperfect. I agree. I think everyone agrees it's imperfect, but it exists and is defined with zero work. And so if you just say as a fallback, we'll do what cosign does, there you go. And I think even folks, I don't want to commit anybody, but I think folks from the cosign community might be completely happy to contribute to this effort if it's going to aid interoperability between these two projects. I think that would be a huge win for us as implementers and for users who want to use this stuff.
You said you have to go, so I'm struggling with how much to answer. Is now the moment you're literally dropping off?
I could probably be a minute late to my next thing.
All right. Let me I'll do it real quick. look, we've always wanted to be open and collaborative with, the effort. So we're always open to that. Appreciate you showing up because I know you're working a lot on the cosine 6-star stuff as well. If we thought the solution solved the problems we're trying to solve, we would adopt it. This isn't a matter of trying to make things more difficult. It's trying to make things work across all registries. I don't agree with some of the decisions that they've made because they don't meet our goals for promoting across registries in a way to have things separable. So it's not as simple as just adopt it because it doesn't meet the requirements of what we're trying to solve. So I think that's the point is this is the exact thing of the OCI Summit. There's multiple designs. What problems do they solve? So if we can, I will take the time this week. I will commit to that because it's been on my plate to try to get to it. At least write down what I think we need to solve. Or what are the goals? And then we can decide where the priority is on which ones solve which. I think that's probably the start to it. And then if we can start that as the conversation, I'm sure we'll have differences of opinion on what the priority is of each one. But I'm completely in line with let's come up with a solution that works and that anybody can adopt.
Yeah, thanks. I'm going to reiterate what I said in the chat for the recording. If there are unmet requirements by cosine solution, I think that feedback would be immensely helpful to them. I don't think that I think that it would be immensely helpful to know what requirements you have that cosine can't solve. And cosine is also not set in stone. You can change things, working together is my goal here. That's why I'm in this meeting and in other meetings and in all these meetings, so many meetings. Yeah, I want to work together and not build two things. And with that, I got to run to my other thing. This has been super helpful. Thank you all, and I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Jason. All right, so just for the recording, I will take the action item to start writing things down as to what we believe we need to support, and then we can put a checkbox, maybe not heat map, whatever, 2 columns, what we support with the artifact spec and what we believe we need to solve and fallback, and that can be a discussion point. Is that fair? I know Jason dropped off. I don't know what other people think.
Yeah, I think I've been picturing in my head some kind of table that lists the possible solutions and which requirements it meets, just as a way to visualize this, because I think I'm kind of missing some context about what different things do and don't do, and I think that would be super helpful. So yeah,
it goes right back to our Gaudi model, like what is it we're trying to build, and then we can have everybody bring in their pieces to it. Okay, great. So yeah, let's push this, I guess, push this discussion until we have the data, right? And then is there anything else that folks want to talk about today? There's nothing else on the agenda. I'm happy to talk about tough stuff, but I think in a couple of weeks I'll have more of a demo, which I think might be more useful, but I can talk about stuff today. Or if anyone else has other things they've been bothering them, they want to bring up, it's a good time. Go ahead, Sajay.
So one of the things that we've been iterating on, and I think I don't know if Shu is on the call, is the extensibility model for something like the notation CLI to support both tough and the JWS format or any other format that comes along in the near future or even later. So is that something that folks would be interested in, kind of like brainstorming? Because right now it's just happening between me and Shui. We shared this with Milan at some point in time, but we want to bring everybody, like, get input from other people as to what folks think.
Yeah, that'd be great. I have a PR somewhere in the Tough repo for an initial kind of vision for the CLI design for that project. And I think it'd be great if we could unify those into something, maybe with some kind of flag or some kind of, I don't know, we separate the namespace and pick commands for each, or whatever the case may be. I think that'd be a great idea. Do you have like a particular ask? Like, is there something that you want people
Yeah,
to take a look at?
I think I was hoping that Shui might share his share the design specs somewhere, or start at least a discussion maybe on the notation CLI, so that we can iterate somewhere and get feedback, right? I think what I can do is maybe take an action item to at least start the discussion on the notation repo somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'd be happy to take a look at that or anything like that. So yeah, that'd be great.
Thanks.
I just suggest for you, Maria, if we do have a bit more time, if you want to talk about the progress you've been making with Tough or questions, we can use that.
Yeah,
time.
totally. Let me
I would discuss the fallback stuff, but without Jason and Brandon here, it's no more.
Yeah, I feel like I think it's better for us to wait until we have both the table and the folks here who want to discuss. And it would be nice, I think, to have that discussion again with Brandon here, hopefully next week. So we'll see how that all goes. But anyway, so for the Tough stuff, I think basically what I've been working on, and actually it'd be great for folks to give feedback. Let me pull up some links for people to look at. Probably don't have time to go over all of them, but basically what I've been working on is just starting on focusing on targets metadata in Tough and leaving kind of timestamp and snapshot for a second part, because I think that can be added directly on top of the other pieces of Tough. It's a nice way to separate the implementation. And so what I have is a kind of a proposed API, kind of what I envision the experience kind of looking like. So I linked that one there. And this one, it's pretty straightforward. It's basically just this is what I see the commands looking like in the end. And then I've actually started working on some code, right, to actually do that, which has involved both, making some adjustments to Go Tough to support different things. And, the Go implementation of Tough is not quite as mature as the Python one. So I've been working on kind of just getting that up to speed a little bit, basically, to support all of this. And then also, I have another PR that'll be out soon, but this is the first, just kind of attempt at getting some code in the repo, right, to start working on the actual CLI, pulling these things together. And basically what I envision is this is just kind of a semi-lightweight library on top of other libraries, things like GoTough, things like the ORAS stuff, and kind of just like using commands from those other libraries and kind of putting them together into some kind, both an API and a CLI interface. So kind of putting that together. So that's what that is so far. Appreciate any feedback on any of this. And there's not much code here yet. This is mostly just, I wanted an outline that folks can then PR on top of. But yeah, so that's where that is. Any questions, concerns? I also have like diagrams and stuff if folks want to talk more on that side of things. Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
No, that's great. I mean, this is like, we're starting to see what it could look like, and that's awesome. So, and the delegate is like, I've got all kinds of like excitement and questions around that, because this is been one of the more interesting things. The piece that I'm still wondering on, because this is what I'm hoping we can figure out how to solve, because this is similar to the same conversation we just had with the promotion and with the cosign signatures all being in a single manifest. How do you promote? If you've got a repo, like we've talked about, a registry has lots of repos, and we want to be careful about crossing repos. Even within a repo, if I've got 1,000, 2,000 tags of things that somebody's pushed up, if I want to promote one or a graph of those, let's just say one tag from registry 1 to registry 2, how do we pull that piece of metadata out so we can get into repo 2? That's been one of the things that I'm most concerned around.
That's one of the PRs I have open on GoTough, actually. And this is one of my kind of things I've been working on, is kind of decoupling the delegations piece for a couple of reasons. Part of it is so that they can be moved separately, but a bigger piece of it is actually just so that Tough delegations can handle polling by digest, which is something that kind of by default, I would say it is a little bit weird, because the way Tough does delegations, it delegates into namespaces, right? And if you have just a digest of something, it's not, it doesn't really have a name, right? It's just a bunch of characters. And so you have to delegate to every single one of those, which obviously doesn't make sense. So my kind of solution for this is to instead delegate to so from the top level TUF repo, you delegate to an entire repository namespace. And then the keys in that delegation can then be used for any of the digests that you pull from inside that repository. So, and then, so
When
the
you say
signature
digest,
itself, what?
When you say digest, are you referring like the the NetMonitor V1 digest or the digest of the signature? That's
Oh, the NetMonitor V1 digest. I can also just call it the manifest of the thing, right? The artifact that you're signing.
Yeah, we've just for terminology, because we always get lost in terminology. We went from target, the thing we now call it is subject. So if you've got a signature, what is the subject that it's signing? So like the NetMonitor V1 would be the subject. So what you're saying is you would be able to figure out what the TUF metadata is for the NetMonitor V1 image.
Yeah, so what you would do is you would do two things. So you would pull the NetMonitor V1 image, use the the ORS spec references, whatever, to find the TUF metadata that points to that image, which then basically just contains the signature. But in order to verify that, you then also pull the TUF root metadata, verify that, TUF top level targets metadata, verify that, use the delegation to find the correct key, and then use that to verify the thing that was associated with the subject. And this will of course all be automated. You don't have to actually do all that work.
Yeah, it'll be in the CLI. So just following, so the signature, the TUF signature would be a standalone artifact. It's the comparator for the rollback protection, that piece is in the repo. So the idea is I could promote that TUF signature to another registry, but the target registry would basically have to update its root metadata to.
Yeah, exactly. So basically when you move the subject and its signature, or copy it, or do whatever it is you're doing to move that, that piece of it you can just do it. And then but using the command that you use to move it, you use the whatever TUF CLI to do that. And in doing so, it would then add a delegation to that in the new place you're moving it to, which includes the keys that you want to use, anything like that. And this could support either adding a delegation to the keys that were originally used to sign it, or you could say, I want to sign it myself because I'm putting it in, my internal environment. I only trust my own keys. So I'd rather add a signature using my key than add a delegation to this other key I don't control. So, and you could kind of do either of those things, right? Because they're just independent building blocks. I think I need to add some of this to that CLI design, the movement command. I think that'd be a great addition there, but that's how I envision it working. That could add some documentation for it, which is probably the thing I should do, but yeah.
It sounds like beginnings of something that could work well. I'll send it to you as well because it got lost in here, but I put the sequence that I did for the KubeCon talk that talk about promoting, just to try to get a sense of what we're talking about. So maybe that'll help.
Yeah, and then I think it would be great to get some feedback on this. So I'll try and write it up in that CLI thing. I don't think it'll be a little bit of time before I get all of the code working for that piece of it, because I want to get the first pieces working first. But at least I can get an outline of how I envision it working, and we can discuss if that makes sense to folks. So. And that's the thing I'm really hoping to demo in a few weeks' time is that movement, because I know that was a big concern. So yeah, that would be great. Anything else? Any other comments, questions?
The thing, I'm trying to take notes here. We really need to get better about our note taking. We've got a volunteer for. Huh?
Maybe we can have like a separate rotation for notes or something.
That's exactly what I was thinking. We have a rotation for the chair. We need to, and I've seen other teams do it. It just for some reason this group nobody wants to volunteer.
Yeah, I think in the tag security meetings, they get like 2 different volunteers or whatever to take side by side notes, which I think it works well, but for some reason we always have trouble here.
So your link that you have, no, wait, hold on. Issue 112, is that the one you, yes, no, hold on a second. That's, yours is Tough Poll 10. Make sure I
Yeah.
get in the notes.
Yeah, 10 is the CLI one. That's the one that's probably most useful for folks to look at. If people want to review code, 11 is also there, but that's basically just an implementation of 10.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put the, oh, it's not doing what I wanted to do with, from, oh, I see, there, that's why. I'll paste this demo script in there that I've been using, which might help with the promotion. So, and the comment there is not meant to say you should use the OR as copy or whatever, anything. It's more around, you kind of see the scenario of when we're trying to promote something from one repo to another. How do we get just the content you want? And it's not just, hey, I want the netmonitor v1 tag and not the v20 other tags in that same repo. But I also only want, if there's 5 signatures, I might only want 2 of the signatures promoted, right? So that's the separable piece. So what I think I'm hearing you say is that you've got a way to have it, the signature separated, and the root metadata, the targets and other stuff, that would be maintained by the registry. So that's the sidecar thing that you've been thinking about, that the client could promote the content across, walking the references tree, and then the target registry would say, okay, I got that new signature. Now let me regenerate the tough metadata to make sure that rollback is protected from.
Yeah, exactly. So the top level tough metadata would have to change on the movement, but what I kind of envision is using that, the ORS thing in the back end to do the, moving the right signatures and the right objects, and basically just adding one more step where it just automatically changes the metadata, either to delegate to the same signature or to say, you should re-sign it yourself because that's what you want to do, or both. But yeah.
I think Hector was bringing this up last week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, that the building on the extension model that Sajay has been working on with the OCR group, that you might have artifact specific extensions. Like we've been trying to focus on generic extensions so that, anything can get pushed to a registry. It could just happen to be signatures, but eventually there will be artifact specific ones, whether it's an SBOM parser, which is, I think if I remember right, that's where Hector was going. There's nothing to say it couldn't be a tough parser or a tough extension that maintains that. So that's interesting. Super interesting. Cool.
Yeah, if folks have other things, we can chat about something else, or we can just get 10 minutes back. So whatever, anyone else have things to talk about?
Oh, that Sajay just put us on. When is the when is the tough meeting? I know.
Oh yeah, so
by the
it is currently on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. West Coast, whatever time that is where you are.
Right, so 1 p.m.
1 p.m. Eastern. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 1 p.m. US.
Did you start another hack doc for notes, or is it in this one?
Yeah, I have. I think it's linked from this one, if I did that correctly. Otherwise, I'll.
Oh yeah, it's right at the top. Okay, great.
Okay, yeah.
Let me just copy it down for the notes here.
Yeah, and so that was the most popular time at the moment. If there's enough folks who can't make it, we can readjust again. I think the only other popular time was one I couldn't make, unfortunately. So yeah, but we can, yeah. I'm gonna go with that time for a few weeks and then we'll see what happens. But
and that's the exact feedback I gave Nate, who is here, is let's be careful where we put all the times for the meetings, because they do move. So Nate, you now see the exact concern around how many places we have at the time. So
And it's tricky because we want to tell everybody when our meetings are, but we don't want to.
well, we do, but I keep on trying
Mention
to, how many different places do we update? So we have the CNCF calendar. Has anybody figured out how to link to a specific meeting in the CNCF calendar, or
No, I mean, that's my, like, I haven't figured out how to add not the whole calendar. So I basically just copy the events into my calendar and then just use my own instance of it. If someone has a better solution, I'd love to hear it, but.
I'm looking into that exact issue right now. One of my to-do items is actually to talk to Amy and see if there's a better way of sort of linking to those. I was thinking I might try to embed in the website on the community page like a filtered version of the calendar, because the calendar's got so much on it and we only care about Notary. So working on it, but I'm glad that I'm glad that we've figured out at least a time for the next few weeks, and I'll try and get that updated soon.
Thanks. Yeah, and sorry for continuing to move that, but yeah.
That's all right. You gotta do what works, right?
is there anybody international that we're losing because it winds up being Friday evening?
I know I was concerned about that too. I went with it because it was most popular. I know it's 5 p.m. UTC. So if you're in the most Western time zone in Europe, it's still a work day, but I'm not sure. I think it's hard because I think the folks to ask don't show up to the meeting, obviously, because they can't make it. But if anyone here has that concern, let me know. Yeah. And I think the tough one especially has been doing a lot of asynchronous communication on the repo and probably will continue to do so. So I'm happy to get feedback that way as well. But I know the meetings are helpful. So yeah. Again, this is also kind of afternoon in Europe, so I'm not sure how many folks we have. Well, if you're watching this recording and this time is really terrible for you, please do let us know and we'll, we'll at least take it into consideration. I can't promise we'll find a time that works for everyone, but. All right, with that, I think I'm going to call it unless anyone has any last minute things. Thank you everyone for coming. Some good discussion. I'll see you all next week.
Thank you.